loud, everyone. And I am your host, Kenny Fitz. And joining me today is another Juno nominee. I'm on a roll these days, Mr. the Wonderful, the Soulful Tafari Anthony, all the way from Toronto. Tafari, how are you? And welcome to Out Loud.
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Listen, anytime. It's funny because I think it was 2018 is when I kind of first connected with you on social media. And that was back when you had your Unbloom mix
Oh my
out
gosh.
of Set Me Free.
Mhm.
And that was that was a time ago. And since then, other than longer hair, um, you have had a string of releases that have been, nothing short of just brilliant. All culminating in a recent Juno nomination for,
Mhm.
your last album. And now you have a brand new song out, Falling Back. How tired are you?
The most tired because this is like not even the only job. So it's like, we're doing all this and
What?
5 million more things.
You mean as an artist in music, you don't just get to make music, you must also have other jobs?
Oh,
Shocking.
imagine what a concept.
But the new song is out. It's called Falling Back, and it's what I would say. It's a side. It's a elevation of you for you. You've done R&B and the pop dance and that kind of thing. It's a little bit more in the pop genre, and I really dig it. I love the chorus
Well,
because it
thank
it
you.
just it's just fun. And tell us about the new song. Tell us about Falling Back.
Yeah, I mean, well, Falling Back was like one of the first ones I wrote for this new project. I just, when I was releasing the last project, The Way You See Me, like I had already started working on this project. I didn't know what it was going to be. I had no money, but I was just like, I got to write, and like, the pandemic was happening, so I had time. So this is one of the first ones that I kind of wrote, and there's a producer that just like sent me a beat. His name is Jordan Woodside, and like I've often had people send me beats before, and but usually it's like you can tell that they never listen to me because like they send me some like hip hoppy trap beat. I'm like, I would never sing on this. Like, so you obviously have never listened to me. But Jordan was sending me stuff and I was like, okay, you get me. So yeah, he sent this beat and like I just started working to it. I did like a little mumble track to it, and it just kind of came very quickly. Not much of it has changed since like the very initial demo, to be honest. Like it's pretty well the same. Like we have a couple little tweaks here and there, but yeah, it's just I felt like it's been like I guess at least 2 years since it's been like an actual new song. So I felt like coming back out of that, it was important to just kind of like hit it hard. So I just picked the most dancey one, the most like fun one, kind of trying to get that little summer vibe going. And yeah,
It definitely has that. It definitely ticks those boxes for sure.
yes.
As you listen to the song now, I mean, not to put you on the spot there or
Oh, you
anything,
can do it.
but it sounds as though there's a story behind the song. Um, hmm, Tell us a little bit about what that story is.
I mean, there's always a story. Let's be honest. I mean, this one, like, yeah, this new project is. I mean, I feel like I always say this is more personal, but like, I feel like I've opened up a lot more on this project about just my life and how I operate. So a lot of the project is dealing with polyamory, which I kind of started exploring more in 2020. I've been open with my main partner for a long time, but it was like always like hush hush. But it was not like we were embarrassed about everything. It's just like we just didn't really talk about it. But I feel like with this new stuff, I've just gotten more open with that. So this one particular is kind of about a couple different people, and then also just kind of about being on Grinder and just this idea of like you keep doing this thing like putting Grinder or like these apps into the forefront for a second. It's like the result is always the same. I just end up by myself anyways. Like you're on there like, oh, let me see what I can find, and it's like you have dead end conversations or like it's the same kind of conversation, just like this looping of the same shit, and nothing ever changes, right? But yet the next day, where am I going to be? Back on the app. So, and then you take the app and you take it into real life, and I just somehow seem to attract these kind of people as well, where it's just like they kind of just end up leading me on or whatever the case may be. And it's just something, there's some little spark in them that I'm like, oh, but I really like this about you, and then I just kind of keep doing the same thing. So
It's like a vicious circle. It's like when you get that crush and you're like, oh, you're the worst person in the world for me, but
but
I'm gonna
I
have
gotta
to
have
just
you.
indulge
Yeah,
myself anyway.
100%, hundred
And
percent.
I think that's part of relationships and growth and discovering who you are and what's important to you. I think that it's nice that not to tip my hat to Grinder or anything like that, but it's nice for, I think, queer men, queer women to have a little bit more space now to be able to say, yeah, you know what? And not just queer men and women, but I mean, people in general, to be open a little bit more about that. I think that the stigma and shame that's always gone about trying to determine what it is that you want out of life and out of a partner, if you're going to have one partner, has always been so, you're supposed to know. And
Yes.
here's my line of my path I'm supposed to go down. And if you're not on the path, then I guess you're just not for me. But the thing is, the path has been so rigid that I think it says a lot to be able to put that in your music and to be able to speak about it. And I think
Yeah.
what it says to other people is that, you know what, this is what we have to do. This is what we do. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean that's always kind of been my thing in life. I mean, it took me a while to kind of get to this point, but like just living for me, like why am I concerned about what everyone thinks about my relationships? If I have two partners, if I have three partners, if I have one partner, who fucking cares? That's what works for me. It doesn't have to work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then move on with your life and do what you need to do, you know? So it's just like I feel like just me being more open with all this stuff has been healing for myself for one, but also I feel like there's not many examples of things like this that I'm really seeing of like people actually talking about alternate kind of relationships that are they're definitely happening, but we're just still kind of like stuck in this binary of like, oh yeah, it's like, man, woman, or man to man, or whatever, or they and them together. And it's just like one person, and like, what's the path is like, okay, you start dating, and then like a year you get engaged, and then 2 years from now you get married, and then you have kids or whatever. Like, it's such a the path is just so laid out and like expected, and it's like, well, what if that doesn't fit my life? It doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean something's wrong with my relationship because I crave to have more than one romantic relationship. No, that's just what I need for myself, and I should be able to do that and not feel shame for it.
Oh, we are a society who loves the taboo. We
Yeah,
love to keep things very taboo
yeah,
and make it seem like it's so shocking or whatnot. But I mean, I guess it's for me, it's nice to see because I think that there's a lot of young people out there who who are exploring that way and who are looking at their life a little bit differently and in not such a narrow, box and
yeah,
perspective, and not just with relationships, but with their careers even. And as someone who was in post-secondary for a really long time, working with students, there's so many students were very much like, oh, I must go in, I must graduate within 4 years, I must know what I'm doing because I must leave and then go get a job and be in my career so I can get married, so I can have kids or do whatever.
yeah.
Whereas it drove a lot of them crazy because they're like, I don't even know if I want that, but I feel like I'm supposed to do this. And it's like, no,
What's a lot of pressure? Like, imagine having that pressure all the time,
I
and it's
know.
and it's not even like you're not even putting that pressure on yourself because that's just what society's making you feel like you have to do. And
It's
maybe for
a,
some people that's their path and that's what's going to work for them, but the majority of us, I think if we had the freedom to think a bit more freely, we would all have very different lives.
I think so too. I really do. I think that, in introducing critical thought, not to get too heavy about things, but introducing critical thought to youth, younger, and getting them to think about things differently themselves, their ideas of what, they want for their life. It doesn't hurt to
No.
broaden the scope of thought on that because it could save you a lot of time. You only get one kick at the can. You should be doing what you want to do and understanding who you are as a person and allowing yourself. You should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
This song is incredibly educating. Do you not see this? We have just created an entire university course around this song. U of T, if you're out there, Professor Anthony is ready.
I'm dead.
All right, let's talk Juno because it's out there. And I mean, it's been a little bit of time, but it's one of those things, your that album it came together over time. It was singles, and eventually you collected it, you put it together for the album, and then of course did the remixes for it. It landed you, and deservedly so, because all of those songs standalone are such great testaments to who you are as a writer, as an artist, and as young as you are, it there's a lot of what I would say, I guess, knowledge that's in there. It's not fluff. There's stuff that's in there that is really important to you.
Yeah.
So you land a Juno. How lovely did that feel?
I will say I didn't believe it for probably like a good 2 weeks.
It's
Be- yeah, because you know what, like I submitted for it and then I just kind of forgot about it. It was one of the things where like one of my goals for like 2020 before the pandemic happened, but I still kept with it, was just saying yes to everything. And so it was one of those things where like it came up and it was like, okay, submit for the Junos. Like, okay, well, I have a project. It falls within the time frame, so I must submit. So I did that. I honestly, Kenny, I didn't think in a million years that it would get nominated. I was just like, oh, maybe some people in the industry will hear it and then that'll be a cool thing and they might like want to work with me on something. I was literally like asleep when the nominations were happening. I didn't even know what was happening, like when they're doing the announcements. And I woke up and my watch was going off, my phone was going off. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, who died? What's going on? And then I like, I eventually like people are just like, congrats, congrats, congrats. I'm like, okay, what congrats on what? I was literally just sleeping, like I'm not doing anything right now to be congratulated on. And then I finally got to like the bottom of the text where someone's like, oh my god, you got nominated for the Juno. I was like, okay, wow.
I will
This
say this. People all the time, I mean, I guess our introduction to awards really comes from an American perspective quite a bit. Whether it's the Grammys or the American Music Awards or the Country Music Awards, we're really bad in Canada for knowing our own stuff. We know lots about the United States,
yeah.
it seems. But I will say this: there is something like there's a pride. Like when you know someone and you're listening to their music, and you know that they're young, it's a first time, and they're out there and they're hustling and they're struggling and really trying to carve out a space for themselves, and a nomination like that hits. I know I felt a feeling of pride, because I'm like, yeah, because first of all, I was just kind of like, they got it, they saw
Yeah.
it. And that just, it I was so happy for you, because I'm sure that's kind of like a little slice of validation, and that makes you kind of go, God damn it. Yeah, okay. I'm not crazy. I'm not stupid for thinking that I've got something here, that I'm doing something, and people see it. And so for me, I was just kind of like, nailed it. Awesome. I was just like, and then I ran around to a bunch of people and kind of told them, and they were like, and I was like, this is the problem. You need to get on your Spotify. And I'm like, and I'm going to send you links.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that because, like, especially with that project too, like, there was such a struggle to get it done. Like, I know it came out of singles, but like before 2020 hit, like I knew it was going to be an EP. Like all the songs were finished. It was just a matter of like rolling it out then. But the process of getting to that point, like for my EP before that, I think just the vibe was just so different. Like the first two EPs that I had, like the first one had a bit more alternative vibe to it. The second one was just more on like the sweet R&B kind of side of things. And I knew that I was trying to do pop. It's pop is something I've always loved, but I've always been afraid to do. I just felt like I never saw myself in pop. I never, there was no examples of like a queer person doing this kind of thing. And add again the black thing onto it now. It's just like just so many things stacked against me in it that I just kind of was like, no, it's not for me. But it's what I fucking do. So I'm like, why am I shying away from this? It's what I want to do. I have that in me. I know I can fucking do that. So it's like I'm shying away because again, what people are gonna say or will think, right? So I was trying for a long time to get producers to get this vision of what I want to do with the project, and like it was just like, oh yeah, like it's cool, but like we'll see, or they'd say, yeah, guess we'll work together, and you don't hear from them ever again, right? So it was one of the things where like I could have just like let that deter me and just be like, okay, well I guess it's not how it's supposed to be. But I was like, nope, this just means that I have to show them. They don't get it, so I have to show them. So I just went online. I found people that I need to find to make it work. I was like, this is the idea. This is what I want. Here are the, the references, whatever you need. And it was very clear, like, pop, 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 pop. I just, I'll bring the soul because it's just who I am. But I need them to understand like that's where we're trying to go. That's the lane. Like here are the artists that we kind of want to fit within. And so getting that nomination for that project specifically was like to me a huge deal, not just for the fact that it was a nomination, but for the fact of like, yes, like you said, it was validation of like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be, and that my idea and what I felt within me was valid.
It's yeah, I mean, of course, people say, "Oh, awards don't really mean anything." They do, because what they can do, and I guess in one instance, yeah, okay, maybe they're not the end all be all, but what they can do for a young artist, a nomination can do, is kind of open the door a bit
Yeah.
for you to work with some other people. And when I talk about representation all the time, especially to folks who think that music should be music, which is true, but they don't understand that not the playing field isn't level. And I mean, you talk to women, especially women in country music, they will tell you that the playing field is not level. And
Yeah.
you already mentioned not only being queer, but being a man of color, and that there's a lot more. The intersectionality builds more challenges and more hurdles for you to get over. That having a nomination, it can open so many doors, and I hope that the doors are opening. But at least it opens doors within you to know that people do recognize you are on the right kind of path. So if
Yeah.
anything, it's I guess a little good food for the soul, for the self soul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I would totally agree with that.
So you have a Juno nomination, and now you have a new song. But you also recently did something in Toronto. You were a part of the queer social, oh my God, queer music social that has kind of popped up in
Yeah.
Toronto, bringing artists together and playing. And I think that the night you did, there was three of you who were on there together, because Michelle on Daisy was there, and yourself, and who else was on
I
there?
am Rapper Will.
Will.
Yeah.
Will was there, and I was just like, oh my God, this is like trifecta of craziness for me. I'm such a fan of all of you. But are you starting to see, aside from just the queer music social piece, because there's been a couple of them now, are you starting to see more space pop up for queer music, queer stages for performance?
I mean, I'm gonna say yes and no. Like I feel like we are, like Corey Hart's the one, or not Corey Hart, jeez. Corey Stewart is the one who's
Corey
putting
Stewart.
that. Corey Hart, yes. No, Corey Stewart is the one who's putting that one on. But I think, we are creating the spaces for ourselves
Mhm.
because it's still not just happening, right? And much like the other projects, like if you want to get something to happen, you can't really just sit around and wait for it. You kind of have to push that door open if it's not there yet, right? So I think it's good that we are starting to just recognize that, if we want to have these spaces and we want to have these showcases or whatever, just events where like queer people can come and see queer music and queer art or whatever the case may be, that we're gonna have to be the ones to do it because no one else is gonna deliver it to us, you know?
Very true. Very
So
true.
yeah, I've seen more of us, take that initiative, I guess is the best way to put this, to do those things. And it's a lot of work to put on these events too, right? So, for an artist like Corey, who's already busy doing their own thing with their own music, it's like to add this component to it. It's a lot of work, and you know, it's kudos to him for doing that to supporting other artists that way. Because I had a little while ago, I had done the same thing where I had like a little showcase that I was doing with my friend, and we would do it monthly, and it was just like it took a lot of time, but it was very soothing for the soul to be like, yeah, I'm helping, the little bit that I have here that I've gotten help from other people, I'm now putting that back into the community and allowing myself to support other artists in this way that I may never have when I was starting. So I think it's good that we're doing that, we're recognizing that, and we're kind of keeping everyone going and not just being like, okay, well, I made it, or whatever the case may be, like I got to this point, and good luck to you.
Yeah.
Like it's just not the right attitude. So I think it's great that it's creating a lot of community, and I think it can only get better as long as we're all kind of have that mindset of like we're here to help each other. It's not a matter of like competition. Like, yes, I know the music industry is like very like they want you to feel like it's all competition, but there is space for all of us. What I do is different from what Rebel does. What Rebel does is different from what Michelle does. Yet we were all in the same space and we are able to create together and have an audience there that could enjoy all of it. You know what I mean?
I love that because I completely agree with you. I think the industry loves to feed competition and loves to feed this kind of have artists kind of like attack one another or
Yeah.
feel like you have to, trump them. No pun intended. But you're right. Like to not only do you have to, which to some people, I don't think they truly understand. There's the artistic side of music. You're creating, whether it's lyrics and the music or all of it, and figuring out production and that kind of thing. Then there's the business side of it, which there's not a lot of help or support for.
No.
So you become this do it yourself artist. The DIY artist is, the artist of the day. You now have technology putting up walls that makes it even harder for you to kind of get out there and get in there. Radio has never been super easy to get into. So it's like you have to become all these things. And they talk about like wearing all the different hats. Then there's like hats, boots, scarves, wearing all of everything. And it's like, no wonder artists will get burned out because they don't know. But at the same time, it's like in order to get out there and get heard, you have to do all
You
of
have
these
to do
things.
it. You have to do it.
And it really is an unfortunate struggle, and there is no easy answer to it other than the fact that I think that coming together like you're talking about actually is great for support to help one another. you know Fans can become fans of more artists than just one,
Yeah.
and collectively together you just never know what you're going to find in the mix. So I think that's awesome, and I hope that there's going to be more of that. I know I would love to see more of it because I would like to go to things like that.
Yeah, I feel like there'll be more. I felt like there was I think in the pandemic there was a good shift of
Mm.
understanding community more, and also just understanding that there's more than just like yourself and what you're doing. What I'm doing is affecting other people, and I have to realize that, and then pay that forward, because that's how we help each other. We gotta support each other, otherwise the whole system is gonna fall.
Absolutely. And you're right that if you don't do it for yourself, if you wait for somebody else, it's not going to happen. So it's very sage wisdom. Very.
Thank you.
So song is out
Yes.
and it's been serviced around. I know I played it on Out Loud already, and it will be played even for more so for sure.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
Playlisting wise, I'm curious about your experience. Like, do you find playlists now happening a little bit easier, or is it still a fight to get people to pick you up on playlists? And it's such a weird thing to say in this day and age, playlisting, but I
Yeah.
mean, it is the means to an end, right? It's kind of crazy.
A little bit. I mean, I feel like it's been again put into our minds that that is the means to the end.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like if you don't get a playlist, then always a failure. Like, I'll be straight up, I've never gotten a playlist from the curators. Title was one, but from like Spotify, Apple, those kind of things, I've never gotten the official ones.
Right.
But I'm still doing the thing. It
Yeah.
is what it is. Like there's many different reasons why it might be the case. A lot of it is numbers and data and this kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And if I'm not hitting that, then you don't even stand a chance. You're not even in the radar, right? It's like you're gonna have to be at a certain point, numbers wise, statistics, to even be considered.
True enough.
So with that, again, it comes down to community and stuff, right? Like, my plays are not like super high, but I know there's support there. I know people want it. I know the music is good as far as I'm concerned. I never put out a song and be like, oh, I'm not sure if it's good enough. Like, I know it's fucking good enough. That's why I'm putting it out, you
Hmm.
know? And a lot of it's just a matter of getting people to listen to it and, support it in a way that it can be shared personally, so that on these services they can see that, yeah, people they want this, because that's all they're looking for, right? Like everything else is like you kind of have to build your shit yourself before they come to you. They're not going to be like, oh, like, yeah, I see potential in you, let's help you out. It's like, no, you helped yourself, amazing, let us put you on the playlist now. So it's like, yeah, it's playlisting, I don't know, like it's a thing that I'm having to deal with now. And like every time a release comes, it's like I always do the same pattern. Like release day, I'm like, oh my god, it's amazing, and I'm like, oh shit, didn't get no fucking playlist. And then by the weekend, I'm like depressed. I'm like, no playlist. Is like 200 plays. It means nothing, but that's 200 people who listen to the fucking song. That's still major.
That's how I look
You
at it.
really
I,
think
I
about
always
it.
think that, a number is a number because it's a person. And if a person took the
Yes.
opportunity to listen to it and came back and it, I always say that everybody deserves to be heard because your music, it may not reach a far, but like a far stretch all the time, but it will reach some people who need it. And that is the difference.
Yes.
And
That is the
it could be the
difference.
difference between somebody who's having a bad day and somebody who this song lifted them up and got them into a move and a groove. And that's success to me.
Yeah. I think that's what we have to remember is like,
Yeah.
what is the point of all this? The point of it is not for fucking streams. Like, who cares? A stream, like streams doesn't mean the number doesn't mean anything. The fact of the matter is that I'm creating music for people, right? So people are enjoying it. If it's 10, if it's 10,000, if it's 10 million, whatever, then I'm doing my job. And like you said, it's gonna reach who it's gonna reach when they need it. And I saw a quote a long time ago, and I keep referencing, or I always think about this, but it's just like, someone asked a question about like, what is the point of putting out songs, this kind of thing, and someone's just like, you know what, a good song will always find its place. It may not be today, it may not be in a year, it may not be in 10 years, but it'll find its spot. If the song is good, it'll find its spot, wherever that's going to be. So I'm a big advocate of just like, make the best music you can make. And this can go into many aspects of life. Make the best thing you can make and then put it out. Don't just sit on it because somebody needs it. If somebody does need it, and they will find it. It may not be in the time frame that you want, but it'll, like if this project doesn't, let's say this project doesn't blow up and doesn't do what I have in mind for it right away. It doesn't mean it's a failure. I still stand full hearted behind the project, but it'll find its spot when it's ready and when the time is right. So you just have to kind of keep working and do, make sure that what you're doing is the best you can do at that time. And I think that's what you have to be proud of.
I like that. And I think that's a really healthy attitude. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. A lot of work, a lot of self work to get to this
It's
point.
been a long road. Speaking of roads, what's coming next? What can we expect from the rest of 2023 from you, from music, from performance? Give
Well,
us some nuggets.
I'll give you some nuggets without too much, but yeah, I mean, you guys have gotten a couple EPs from me, so you are due for an album. We'll put that out there. It's coming. There'll be a couple more singles throughout the summer, and then yeah, the album will come when it comes. And I hope that it's, I just talked about like always having a story. The whole album is a story. So I really, really encourage people, to take the time if you have it. I would love if you just listen from top to bottom because I honestly I spent like probably half a year just doing the like track listing, like the actual order of it, because it was that important to me that it's like this is listened to as a body of work properly. Because the EPs are great because they're shorter, so it doesn't take as much time to kind of do that. But they often feel like, oh, like it's just like a collection of good songs together that maybe might have a little theme to it, but it's not really. This is just like honestly the last couple of years of my life as like a diary. So it was really important to me to like tell the story the way it kind of happened. I was kind of writing in real time, which is not something I've really done before either. So I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of like the work that's on it. I think a lot of the album is like it was very pop focused again. Like just that's I'm just trying to like open that door because it needs to be opened. So I was very pop focused, but it's very eclectic in pop. And like I've been talking about before, like I'm doing my version of what pop means to me.
I'm excited by that because I think good pop is good for it's so I think it's healthy because I think that good music in general is healthy, but I think pop gets such um mixed messages, and also I think sometimes it gets tortured for the sake of just pumping something out.
Yes, yeah.
But when it's kind of when you attack it from a storytelling standpoint, and there's a lot of emotion behind it, and it can be fun. There's so much that pop music can do, and it has been such a huge part of our lives
Yeah.
that I get excited because I know just how good it can be when it's firing in all engines and not
Yeah.
being tortured. Which you're not doing. You are not torturing pop.
I hope so.
Anything in the way, will people see you out performing anywhere?
we are working on some things. Right now, I'm actually in rehearsals for opera, which is
Oh,
not something I ever thought I'd say in my life, but here we are. Yeah, so there's an opera happening in Toronto, June 10th to the 17th, called Shuminisha. It's like one of the first written Black operas, actually.
nice.
And so my understanding still, and maybe this has changed because it's been a while since they've been working on it, but it's like never been properly staged. So this is going to be like the first time that it's going to be really staged properly. So it's very exciting. It's very new. It's very hard. It's very like my mind is just like, excuse me, what? But I'm enjoying the challenge of doing this, and it's a nice little breather from doing my own stuff. I've been stuck in my album for like at least 3 years now, so it's just nice to kind of take a little break. Even though the songs are coming out and they're new to you guys, so I've been like, get me out of here for a sec. But so I'm doing that this month, and then I'm talking about a couple different other performance opportunities throughout Pride Month and stuff. So we'll see what sticks. But yeah, I think right now I'm just more focused on just rolling out this album properly and do the best that we can do with that. And then I think I will look towards doing a lot more performance in the new year.
I'm excited by that. I think you are right. When you take yourself out of the space that you've been in and you throw yourself into something new, opera,
Yeah.
whatever it is going to be,
Yeah.
um, I think what it does is helps you kind of go back to your own art and see it a little bit differently with some clearer eyes, but also it gives you an infusion of something new that you may
Yes.
eventually want to take from, or you may have gotten some ideas or picked up on some things by doing something new that you may eventually want to incorporate into your own art. And I think that
Yeah.
that's a great thing, for an artist, but I also think for the music that you're creating, and I think for us as fans and listeners, as an audience, we get something exciting out of that as well. So
Yeah.
I
No, I
think that's
would
awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you. I'm very excited to do it. Yeah, and it's again just nice to kind of do something else, and I'm sure it'll cross over into new music at some point because I'm just learning so much, and I'm just around like different voices I've never been around before, and just like hearing how they sing, and I'm like, I want to try that. Like, how can I sing like that? Like, I don't sing operatically, but I'm in the room with these people, and that's what they're doing, and so I'm trying to not mimic, but I'm just trying to like understand how they approach things and see how I can like put that into my life. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, well, your voice and tone and everything like that, and your facility is so strong that you probably have more of a range and more of a variety of spaces that you can get to than you
Yeah,
probably would have thought before, and this probably helps with that a little bit to kind of open you up to that. So
yeah,
that
absolutely.
that's only all positive. So to listen, I've it's so weird because as I said, 2018, we kind of like originally kind of went back and forth on social media, and eventually within pandemic hit, and we talked more and we kind of kept going, and I've always been in your corner in that, but we've never been had a chance to really truly sit down.
Yeah, it's true.
um so this has been awesome, and I don't know why it has taken so long, but
Well, listen, Kenny, as we said, everything will happen in its time, right? This is the time that's supposed to happen. So here we are.
wisdom, the wisdom is there. The wisdom is there. All right. Well, thank you for chatting with me. Anybody who's watching this, you need to go and check out all of the Tafari Anthony back catalog and everything that's new that's
Yes.
coming out, including the current single, which is Falling Back, which is awesome. And catch him when he's out there, when he's performing, and hopefully it's going to be a star-studded year for you for performances and everything in 2023. But I have no fears whatsoever that we won't be seeing and hearing a lot more of you, but also some more of those nominations won't be bad either.
you know, I won't say no to it. I will not say no to it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.